Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Some men are so difficult to understand that silence becomes their native language, and the world spends decades mistranslating them. Throughout history, the quietest figures have often carried the heaviest weight of misunderstanding. Psychologists have found that humans instinctively mistrust what they can't easily categorize. Our brains are wired to feel safer when someone fits a box. And that's exactly why Sigma males confuse, frustrate, and even threaten people without saying a word. They're not rebels waving flags, nor are they followers begging for direction. They exist in a strange orbit of their own, refusing to be pinned down. To the untrained eye, that looks suspicious. Why doesn't he play the game like everyone else? But to those who look closer, it's genius disguised as detachment. The irony? Sigma males are often accused of being antisocial, cold, or lost, when in reality they're the ones quietly reading the room while everyone else is busy performing in it. Imagine walking into a party where everyone's shouting for attention, and the only man who says nothing ends up being the most unforgettable one. It's maddening, it's hilarious, and it's the essence of why Sigma males are the most misunderstood men in the world. Number 1. They don't explain their depths, they test who can swim. They don't hand out explanations about who they are or what they feel. Instead, Sigma males deliberately leave gaps, silences, and unfinished sentences that act as filters. Most people can't stand that. They crave clear answers, quick labels, and easy blueprints for understanding someone. But a Sigma male doesn't give that away. He lets the silence test people. Some will become restless, suspicious, even angry, because they don't know where they stand with him. Others, the rare ones, will stay calm in the uncertainty and slowly earn access to his depths. This isn't a trick or a game. It's how he protects himself. Too many people mistake oversharing for connection, but Sigma males know that revealing everything up front is the fastest way to get trapped in someone else's expectations. Once people think they know you, they box you in. They start treating you according to their version of you, not who you really are. The Sigma male avoids that trap by staying a little unreadable. It's also a way to measure strength of character. If someone can't handle not knowing, if they panic at the absence of constant reassurance, then they're not ready for his presence. He doesn't need to argue or expose anyone. Their own discomfort reveals them. People project all kinds of nonsense into his silence. Some assume he's hiding arrogance. Others think he's broken or detached. The truth is far less dramatic. He's just filtering, patiently watching who has the resilience to swim without a life jacket. This makes him misunderstood constantly. People say he's aloof, cold, or even manipulative. But the reality is he values intimacy so much that he refuses to waste it on shallow exchanges. He doesn't want 100 surface-level bonds built on empty chatter. He wants the few that survive his silence, the ones deep enough to handle complexity without collapsing. The paradox is that his mystery isn't designed to confuse. It's designed to reveal. He doesn't expose himself quickly because he knows depth can't be rushed, and trust can't be handed out like candy. So while others flood the world with explanations and still remain unknown, the Sigma male withholds his depths and in doing so, makes sure the right people find their way in. Number 2, they challenge power without attacking it. Sigma males don't storm the gates of power or start loud revolutions. They challenge hierarchies in a quieter, more unsettling way, by refusing to play along. In a world where most men define themselves by where they stand on the ladder, the Sigma male simply steps aside. He doesn't kneel to authority, but he doesn't waste his breath trying to tear it down either. That refusal to engage with the usual rules is more destabilizing than open rebellion, because it exposes how fragile the system actually is. Power thrives on recognition. A leader needs followers, an alpha needs applause, and every social hierarchy needs people to buy into it for it to matter. The Sigma male undermines all of that without lifting a finger. By refusing to worship titles, ranks, or reputations, he quietly proves that much of it is an illusion. His presence alone asks an uncomfortable question that most people avoid. If someone refuses to acknowledge power, does that power really exist? This unnerves those who depend on authority for their identity. Alphas expect either submission or competition. They don't know what to do with indifference. When a Sigma male walks away from the games others are obsessed with, it's almost insulting. It says, "You don't matter as much as you think you do." That stings more than direct defiance. Of course, this makes him a target for endless misunderstanding. People assume he must be bitter, insecure, or secretly weak because he won't join the fight for dominance. In reality, he's already seen through it. He understands that chasing validation through power is just another form of dependence, and dependence is a trap he refuses to live in. What outsiders mistake for passivity is actually a deeper kind of strength. It takes courage not to kneel, and equal courage not to waste energy in pointless battles. Sigma males don't deny that hierarchies exist, they just refuse to let those hierarchies define them. And that quiet act of non-compliance is more dangerous than rebellion, because rebellion still acknowledges the system's power. The Sigma male doesn't. He simply lives outside it, and in doing so shows others they could too. Number 3. They live as paradoxes, and humans hate paradoxes. Sigma males live as walking contradictions, and that's exactly why people can't pin them down. They can be deeply loyal, yet fiercely independent, gentle in one moment and brutally detached in the next. This duality unsettles people because society thrives on neat categories. You're either strong or weak, kind or cold, introverted or extroverted. The Sigma male bends and breaks these binaries without even trying, which makes others feel uneasy. Humans prefer simplicity, and he is anything but simple. The contradiction isn't about pretending to be different people, it's about being fluid enough to adapt without losing himself. He can thrive in solitude but also hold his ground in a crowded room. He can walk away from people without hesitation, yet those who truly matter to him find in him a loyalty that's almost frightening in its intensity. This balance confuses outsiders who expect consistency in predictable forms. They mistake his ability to shift gears as inconsistency, when in truth it's a rare kind of completeness. The problem is that most people can only process extremes. If you're quiet, they call you antisocial. If you're strong, they assume you can't be soft. If you walk alone, they think you must be lost. Sigma males don't fit those assumptions, and so they're constantly mislabeled. His paradoxes feel like contradictions only because people are limited in how they perceive men. He doesn't live in extremes. He lives in the intersections. That's why he's misunderstood so often. People can't decide whether to fear him, admire him, or dismiss him, because he never gives them just one reason. To some, he's mysterious. To others, he's threatening. And to many, he's simply confusing. What they don't realize is that his contradictions are his strength. He embodies multiple truths at once, which makes him adaptable in ways most men aren't. The paradox of the Sigma male isn't about being unreadable. It's about refusing to shrink into one identity just to make others comfortable. He can be both the storm and the calm, the distance and the closeness, the outsider and the ally. And that balance is precisely why people can never fully understand him. Because to understand him, they'd have to accept that a man doesn't have to fit into just one definition. Number 4. They don't signal their value, they guard it. Sigma males don't advertise their value because they know true worth doesn't need a billboard. Instead of broadcasting achievements, possessions, or social proof to gain recognition, they deliberately hold it back. This isn't insecurity, it's strategy. They want to see who has the discernment to notice quality without being told where to look. In a world where most people oversell themselves just to be seen, their refusal to do the same can make them appear average or even unremarkable. But that's the trap. While others are busy proving themselves, Sigma males are studying quietly, testing who can see past the noise. This guarded approach confuses people who are addicted to surface signals. If they can't immediately categorize a man as powerful, wealthy, or influential, they assume he has nothing to offer, but the Sigma male doesn't exist to satisfy shallow judgments. His strength lies in forcing others to look deeper, to notice subtleties instead of the obvious. And those who fail that test, they never gain access to his real value. What makes this even more unsettling is how intentional it is. Sigma males aren't hiding by accident. They're watching. They understand that the moment you reveal your worth to the wrong audience, you've given them leverage. So they keep their cards close, revealing them only when absolutely necessary, and only to those who've proven they can handle it. That quiet control over visibility makes them dangerous to systems built on showmanship. People mistake this guardedness for mediocrity, but in truth, it's a filter. By not signaling their value, Sigma males eliminate the opportunists, the shallow admirers, and the parasites who only attach themselves to obvious displays of success. Whoever remains, those who notice the unspoken cues, are the rare ones worthy of their time. This is why Sigma males are so often misunderstood. They look ordinary to the untrained eye, but to those who pay attention, they are anything but. Number 5. They're comfortable being untranslatable. Sigma males live in a way that often feels untranslatable to others, and that's exactly where the misunderstandings begin. Most people, when faced with confusion, rush to adjust themselves so they can be understood. They simplify their language, tone themselves down, or exaggerate certain traits so others can get them more easily. Sigma males don't do that. They let the confusion remain, almost as if it's part of the interaction itself. They don't feel the need to shrink, edit, or repackage themselves for easier consumption. To them, being misread is far better than being diluted. This choice unsettles people. In a world where clarity and relatability are treated like currency, refusing to simplify is often seen as arrogance. But for Sigma males, it isn't arrogance at all, it's self-respect. They believe their complexity has value, and if someone can't sit with a bit of ambiguity, then maybe that person doesn't deserve access in the first place. Why should they cut themselves into smaller pieces just to make others comfortable? The irony is that this untranslatability isn't about hiding who they are. Sigma males aren't interested in deception. They're simply uninterested in performance. They'd rather you wrestle with the rough edges of their character than give you a polished version that isn't real. But because most people are conditioned to expect neat labels and simple categories, they misinterpret that resistance as hostility. This is where the misunderstanding deepens. When someone can't easily read a Sigma male, they start projecting. Some assume he's cold. Others think he's trying to be mysterious on purpose. A few even label him antisocial. In reality, he's none of those things. He just refuses to spoon-feed his essence to people who don't have the patience or curiosity to understand it. Being untranslatable is, in a way, a test. It separates those who can sit with complexity from those who demand instant clarity. The Sigma male doesn't explain away his depth. He waits to see who's willing to explore it. That waiting, that refusal to bend for easy interpretation is why he's so often misunderstood. It's not that he's trying to be difficult, it's that he refuses to make himself smaller than he really is. Number 6. They're not escaping the system, they're testing it. Sigma males are often labeled as loners or rebels, simply because they don't attach themselves to the usual structures, corporate ladders, social hierarchies, or traditional group dynamics. But what most people miss is that their distance isn't about escape, it's about testing. They step outside of the system not to run from it, but to see what it's really made of. From the outside, patterns become clearer. How fragile certain rules are, how much corruption runs underneath polished appearances, and how many people cling to systems that don't actually serve them. This makes them deeply unsettling to those who are fully invested in the game. The man who refuses to kneel to a system reveals its cracks without even trying. If he can function, thrive, or even outmaneuver others while standing outside the accepted order, then it raises a dangerous question. Was the system ever necessary in the first place? That realization doesn't sit well with people whose entire identity is wrapped up in following its rules. Sigma males don't seek validation from systems, and that lack of dependence is what makes them immune to manipulation. Most men gain a sense of value by climbing the ladder or being acknowledged by authority. The Sigma male strips that power away by showing he can live and succeed without needing a position, a title, or a crowd behind him. He doesn't disrespect structure for the sake of being rebellious. He simply refuses to confuse structure with truth. That's why their behavior is so often misunderstood. Outsiders think they're avoiding responsibility, running away from the grind, or too detached to commit. In reality, they're studying everything more closely than the ones stuck inside it. By testing the system from the edges, they learn how it works, where it breaks, and how much of it is nothing more than illusion. This quiet resistance frustrates people who rely on conformity for validation. To them, a man who doesn't play by the rules is dangerous. But to the Sigma male, not testing the system would be the real weakness. He knows that blind obedience traps men, while stepping outside of it, even briefly, reveals truths most will never see. Number 7. They keep emotional firepower off the market. Most men in today's world use emotions like tools, or worse, like weapons. They display pain to gain sympathy, exaggerate joy to win attention, or fake vulnerability to seduce and manipulate. Emotional exposure becomes currency, traded for validation, influence, or control. Sigma males refuse to play that game. They keep their emotional firepower locked away, not because they don't feel, but because they refuse to let feelings become cheapened, exploited, or used against them. This restraint often makes them look cold or detached, and that's where the misunderstanding begins. People assume that because a Sigma male doesn't cry publicly, rage loudly, or broadcast every joy, he must be numb. In reality, it's the opposite. He feels deeply, but he refuses to put his emotions on display where anyone can twist them into leverage. That kind of discipline is rare, and in a world hooked on oversharing, it feels almost alien. There's a quiet wisdom in this approach. Sigma males know that once people see exactly what moves you, they can push those buttons anytime they want. Vulnerability in the wrong hands becomes blackmail. By controlling what they show and when they show it, they remain untouchable. This isn't repression, it's strategic privacy. They allow only those who've earned real trust to see their depths, and even then, they choose carefully what to share. The irony is that this makes their emotions more powerful, not less. When they do finally reveal something, anger, affection, or grief, it carries weight. It isn't diluted by constant repetition or cheap theatrics. Their silence beforehand makes the expression undeniable when it finally arrives. That's why those close to them often say Sigma males are far more intense emotionally than people expect. They just don't hand that intensity to the public. What looks like coldness is actually strength. It takes more discipline to hold back than it does to perform, and Sigma males have no interest in being performers. They would rather be misunderstood as distant than be enslaved by the kind of emotional exposure that others hand out recklessly. In their world, emotional firepower isn't for sale, and that's exactly why it can never be used against them. Number 8. Their kindness isn't transactional, so it looks suspect. When a Sigma male shows kindness, it often unsettles people more than it comforts them. That's because his kindness is clean. It doesn't come with strings attached, unspoken debts, or the expectation of applause. He helps because he wants to, not because he's trying to earn validation, win favor, or build a reputation. But in a culture where nearly every good deed is followed by a selfie, a speech, or a receipt, selfless kindness looks suspicious. People are so used to kindness being a transaction that when it isn't, they start searching for the catch. This is why Sigma males are often misunderstood. If they offer support without broadcasting it, people wonder what their angle is. If they give time or effort without asking for credit, people assume they must be manipulating the situation in some unseen way. The idea that someone could simply help without needing recognition is so rare that it feels threatening. It disrupts the way most people have been taught to view generosity. The Sigma male understands something that many overlook. Real kindness isn't about the giver's ego, it's about the act itself. He doesn't need to document it, explain it, or leverage it later. And because of that, his kindness often goes unnoticed or unappreciated. That doesn't bother him. What bothers others is that he can walk away without needing acknowledgement. To people addicted to attention, that kind of independence looks unnatural. The irony is that this very purity makes his kindness even more powerful. Because he's not performing, the impact of his actions lingers. Those who truly receive his help feel it more deeply because it wasn't tied to a show. Yet outsiders, watching from a distance, remain skeptical, assuming that no one can operate without an agenda. This misunderstanding reveals more about society than about him. People expect every gesture to have a price, So when they encounter someone who doesn't play by those rules, it rattles them. The Sigma male doesn't clear up that confusion. He lets people think what they want. To him, the authenticity of his kindness matters more than public interpretation. And that's why it always looks suspect to those who can't imagine doing anything without expecting something in return. Number 9. They see friendships as living organisms, not contracts. Sigma males approach friendships in a way that feels almost alien to most people. Where others see relationships as contracts, fixed, permanent, and held together by obligation, Sigma males see them as living organisms. To them, a friendship is alive only as long as it grows, breathes, and serves a purpose for both sides. Once it stops evolving, once it turns stagnant or one-sided, they allow it to fade. They don't cling, they don't force, and they don't beg for resuscitation. This calm acceptance of endings is often mistaken for coldness or cruelty, but it's really a deeper respect for authenticity. Most people are taught to maintain relationships at all costs. They keep toxic friends out of guilt, cling to old ties out of nostalgia, and force broken connections to continue out of fear of loneliness. The Sigma male refuses to live that way. He knows that forcing a bond after its natural lifespan isn't loyalty, it's decay. Letting go isn't heartless, it's honest. He'd rather remember what a friendship once was than watch it rot into resentment. This perspective unsettles outsiders because it strips away illusions of permanence. People want to believe that relationships are forever if they're real. But Sigma males understand that growth means change, and sometimes change means parting ways. If someone is no longer aligned with their path, they don't see that as betrayal. They see it as life, doing what it always does, transforming, reshaping, evolving. The misunderstanding comes from how quietly they handle it. Sigma males rarely announce breakups in friendships or make drama about who drifted from whom. They just step back, create distance, and let the bond dissolve naturally. To those watching, this looks like abandonment. In truth, it's respect. If a relationship can't breathe, there's no dignity in forcing it. This approach means that the friendships they do keep are alive, dynamic, and real. They don't hold people hostage out of obligation, so when someone remains in their circle, it's because they genuinely belong there. That's the difference. To the Sigma male, relationships aren't contracts to be enforced. They're living, breathing connections that must earn their place every day. And when they die, he lets them rest instead of pretending they're still alive. Number 10. They judge energy, not titles. Sigma males evaluate people in ways that don't fit the usual social script. Most men measure worth through visible markers: money, titles, status symbols, or social rank. The Sigma male bypasses all of that. What he pays attention to is harder to fake: a person's energy, their underlying intentions, and the weight of their presence. He notices the tone behind words, the posture behind confidence, the truth hiding behind performance. To him, those invisible cues say more than any title or accomplishment ever could. This makes him immune to shallow hierarchies, and that's where the tension arises. In groups where people obsess over rank or wealth, the Sigma male remains unmoved. A CEO, a celebrity, or a self-proclaimed leader doesn't impress him if the energy feels hollow. At the same time, someone with no apparent status but an authentic presence will earn his respect immediately. This disrupts the way most hierarchies function, because those who depend on their rank for validation expect others to acknowledge it without question. When a Sigma male doesn't, it's almost offensive. It strips their power of its illusion. What frustrates people even more is that he's accurate. His ability to read energy makes him see through masks quickly, and those who live off titles or appearances can feel exposed around him. They sense that he isn't buying into their performance, and that makes them defensive. To them, his indifference feels like a challenge, even though he rarely intends it that way. Simply by not playing along, he reveals how fragile their status really is. Because of this, Sigma males are often labeled as arrogant or dismissive. But the truth is, they're not dismissing people, they're dismissing illusions. They don't care about what society has stamped on someone's forehead. They care about what radiates from the person when all the labels are stripped away. And for many, that's uncomfortable. It's why Sigma males often stand at odds with traditional hierarchies. They don't deny that titles exist. They just don't mistake them for truth. Their loyalty goes to authenticity, not appearance. And in a world built on shallow rankings, that kind of judgment is both rare and deeply unsettling to those who need their titles to mean everything. Number 11. They're both outsiders and insiders by choice. Sigma males have a strange ability to move between worlds without ever fully belonging to them. They can walk into a corporate office and understand the language of strategy and politics. They can sit with creatives and blend into the rhythm of free thinkers. They can survive in street environments where respect is earned differently, or step into elite circles where power games dominate. And in each space, they function with ease. Yet they never allow themselves to be absorbed. That fluidity is rare, and it's exactly why people struggle to make sense of them. Most people survive by committing to one identity. They lock into a role, professional, artist, hustler, intellectual, and pour their entire existence into that box. Society rewards this predictability, but Sigma males don't surrender to one role. They dip in and out, carrying pieces of each without being owned by any. To those watching, this feels ghost-like. He's there, fully present, yet never bound. This unsettles people because human hierarchies depend on labels. When someone refuses to be labeled, it breaks the order. If he can function in every circle without belonging to one, then what rules actually bind him? That question breeds mistrust. People don't like what they can't categorize, because if they can't categorize it, they can't control it. The Sigma male thrives in that gray space where he is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. What makes this more fascinating is that it's a choice. He could easily settle into one world, dominate it, and claim status, but he doesn't. He chooses movement over permanence because he values freedom more than recognition. That freedom makes him versatile but also misunderstood. People think he's commitment-phobic, rootless, or undecided about who he is. In reality, he's simply unwilling to let any single system define him. This duality, insider and outsider, gives him leverage. He understands each environment without being trapped by its rules. That perspective allows him to see flaws, patterns, and weaknesses that insiders are blind to. It's also why he's feared. A man who can belong everywhere without belonging anywhere cannot be owned. And in a world obsessed with ownership, that makes him untouchable. Number 12. They resist narratives forced on them. Sigma males have an instinctive resistance to narratives that don't originate from themselves. Where most men quickly accept the labels handed to them, leader, follower, rebel, or any other neatly packaged identity, Sigma males push back. They don't wear tags just to make others comfortable. This refusal to submit to pre-written roles makes them difficult to pin down, and that's exactly why they're so often misunderstood. Society thrives on categorization. People feel safer when they can look at someone and say, he's this kind of person. Labels create predictability, and predictability creates control. A man who openly accepts a role is easier to manage because everyone knows what to expect from him. But Sigma males dismantle that system by refusing to fit. If you call him a leader, he'll withdraw. If you call him a follower, he'll surprise you with independence. If you call him a rebel, he'll confuse you by playing the game just long enough to learn it, then walking away. He won't let anyone reduce him to a single storyline. This frustrates people more than open defiance. Open defiance still follows the script. There's a clear rebel and a clear authority. But when a Sigma male shrugs off the label altogether, he denies the script itself. He refuses to act in a way that satisfies society's craving for order. Instead of being predictable, he becomes fluid, sometimes leading, sometimes observing, sometimes stepping away entirely. That fluidity doesn't fit any category, so people call him difficult, arrogant, or mysterious when really he's just refusing to shrink into simplicity. The irony is that by resisting these forced narratives, Sigma males actually live with more authenticity than most. They allow themselves to embody contradictions. Strength without dominance, independence without isolation, calm without weakness. But because society hates paradox, it brands him as confusing. In truth, the confusion belongs to those who can't imagine a man existing outside their checklist of identities. This is why Sigma males are so often judged unfairly. They're not against roles, They're against being trapped in them. They don't reject labels out of rebellion. They reject them out of self-respect. And in a world built on storytelling, the man who refuses to play the part will always be seen as a threat. Sigma males remain some of the most misread men in the world, not because they are unclear, but because the world insists on using the wrong lens to view them. They refuse to signal their worth. They let confusion linger instead of shrinking themselves. They don't buy into shallow hierarchies, and they move through extremes with a quiet resilience most can't comprehend. To many that looks like arrogance, coldness, or detachment. In truth, it's none of those things. It's discipline, authenticity, and a refusal to live as a watered-down version of themselves just to make others feel comfortable. What unsettles people is that Sigma males break the patterns society depends on. They don't beg for recognition. They don't cling to dead relationships. They don't perform kindness for applause. And they don't worship power just because everyone else does. They can stand inside the system without belonging to it, and they can live outside of it without collapsing. That kind of freedom exposes how fragile the rules really are, and that's why they are so often mistrusted. But the truth is simple. Sigma males aren't misunderstood because they're confusing. They're misunderstood because they reveal too much about everyone else. Their silence mirrors the world's noise. Their patience exposes others' desperation. Their independence makes people confront how dependent they really are. And so the Sigma male continues to move like a paradox, both visible and invisible, connected yet untouchable, misunderstood but never broken. He doesn't need validation to confirm who he is. He already knows. That's the real reason society struggles to define him. He isn't waiting for a definition. He's already living beyond it. If you found this breakdown as eye-opening as I intended it to be, then don't just leave it here. Help us keep building this community. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive into the Sigma mindset. Drop a like if this resonated with you, and share your thoughts down below in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, and if you know someone who's always misunderstood or someone who needs to understand the Sigma male better, share this video with them. Your support keeps this channel alive, growing, and unapologetically real.